a man received a notification from a trail camera installed on his remote hunting property. At first, he assumed it would be another routine alert, likely deer or other wildlife passing through. But when he opened the footage, he saw something completely unexpected. The camera showed an unknown man walking away from the hunting shack, carrying one of the heaters from inside. After reviewing the footage, he contacted neighboring landowners along the property line to see if anyone recognized the man. None of them did, and some even went out to help check the area themselves. Once it became clear the suspect was unknown locally, the property owner contacted police and provided them with the trail camera footage. As the situation unfolded, authorities confirmed the incident was far more serious than simple trespassing. Officers were already searching for the suspect and responded to the report. He was described as a career criminal with a history of armed robbery and had recently been involved in a high-risk police pursuit. During the incident, he stole multiple vehicles before abandoning them and escaping on foot. Fortunately, the property owner was not at the hunting land at the time. By the time the authorities arrived, the suspect had already fled. A Reddit user and his brother were camping when a large tree collapsed across both of their sites. It landed on a parked car and crushed a camper trailer. Both vehicles were badly damaged and could not be moved from the site. Luckily, no one was hurt. Later inspection revealed the tree was rotten inside, despite appearing healthy from the outside. If the tree had fallen at night, the outcome could have been fatal. This incident shows how unstable trees can fail without warning, even in seemingly calm conditions. A group of campers was driving through a wooded area in Hertfordshire when they noticed something unusual. Through the car window, they saw a person in a long white dress running through the trees. Finding it strange, they started recording. The person moved quickly, looking completely out of place for someone dressed like that in the woods. No explanation or follow-up was shared with the video. But many viewers had theories. Maybe it was someone escaping a dangerous situation, a ghost, a vampire, or a person struggling with mental health issues. No one knows. One night, a woman was out walking her dog along a quiet road in her neighborhood. From the start, something felt off. The street was empty, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't truly alone. Just to check in, she snapped a quick photo and sent it to her husband. But his reply made everything worse. He texted back, "Who's that behind you?" Confused, she looked at the photo again, and that's when she saw it. In the live photo playback, for just a moment, a dark hooded figure appeared, wandering near the edge of the road. She was certain no one had been there. She hadn't seen or heard a thing. The realization left them both shaken and confused. Had someone been silently following her in the dark? Thankfully, she made it home safely, but ever since that night, she's never walked that route alone again. Someone was hiking in a quiet forest when they encountered something terrifying. In the distance, they saw what appeared to be a group of people standing in dark cloaks. The hiker froze, but upon realizing they were just statues, they carefully approached and filmed. At least, that's the story that was shared. It was later revealed that the entire scene was artificial. The forest, the snow, and the statues were all generated using artificial intelligence. No such location exists, and none of the objects were physically present. We were all fooled. This group was out enjoying a hike with their dogs when they stopped to take a casual selfie. At first, the photo seemed completely normal, until they noticed a strange detail in the background. On one of them, a hand appears to be resting on their shoulder, but according to the group, no one else was there who could have placed it. They claimed it was only the four of them on the trail that day, though that's impossible to verify. Looking closer, there also appears to be a white shape between the man in front and the person behind him, almost as if someone could partially be hidden in the frame, trying to make the image appear creepy with the extra hand. What do you think? Reddit user Serpent95's friend filmed a normal video in Thailand, without realizing she had captured one of the scariest clips of her life. When she reviewed the video later, after returning home to Sweden, she noticed something strange. As she walked along with a dog behind her, a dark, cloaked figure seemed to move beside them. The dog didn't react at all. To this day, she has no idea what it could have been, but it still creeps her out. A Reddit user reported that an unknown person exposed themselves to her on the Oakleaf Trail just north of Prospect. She managed to take a quick photo before leaving and shared the incident on a Milwaukee online forum to warn others. She tried contacting the non-emergency police line but couldn't get through, and later said she planned to file a report in person. Other forum users encouraged her to report it and shared similar experiences, noting that repeat offenders are sometimes involved. Strangely enough, incidents like this do happen in forested areas. Be cautious and stay aware. Reddit user Conflicted Gemini and his wife were hiking at Castle Rock State Park in California during spring last year. The weather was hazy and the trail ahead looked clear, a perfect moment for a picture. Later, while reviewing the photos at home, they noticed something unsettling. A ghostly figure appeared at the far end of the path. The shape looked human and stood out clearly against the background. They got goosebumps and quickly closed their computer, too scared to look at the other pictures. Commenters agreed it was a compelling capture of a ghost, some saying it resembled a soldier wearing a helmet, both a sad and unsettling sight. In 2021, a backpacker was hiking near an abandoned quarry in the Balkans when he noticed unusual movement in the water. The footage shows strong splashing and a wide disturbance across the surface. Whatever caused it never comes clearly into view, but the size and the force of the movement suggest something large and powerful was swimming beneath the surface. With no additional footage and no witnesses nearby, the source of the disturbance remains completely unidentified. In 2005, a hiker on Silver Star Mountain in southwest Washington took several photos during a hike. While snapping pictures, they noticed a lone figure moving across a wide, snowy slope, an area that seemed too dangerous for anyone to walk. Later, when the images were zoomed in, the figure appeared unusual. Upright, dark, bulky, and taking long strides. There were no visible trails, gear, or other people nearby. Given the harsh conditions, it would have been extremely difficult, almost impossible, for anyone to walk there safely. These images later became known as the Silver Star Bigfoot photos. In Peru, police made a shocking discovery in the city of Puno. Officers told CNN they encountered 3 men drinking in a deserted park, when they noticed one of them carrying a delivery-style cooler bag. Inside that bag was something no one expected. As officers searched it, they discovered an 800-year-old mummy. The man claimed the mummy's name was Juanita and said it was his spiritual companion. He told authorities the remains had been given to him by his father and had been part of his family for nearly 30 years. But when experts examined the body, they made a surprising determination. The mummy was actually male, dating back to the pre-Hispanic period. Authorities classified the remains as part of Peru's protected cultural heritage. The man, along with the others present, was detained as the investigation moved forward. Yet one major question remains. Where did the family originally obtain the mummy? A girl was out camping with her family when she decided to wander off alone, venturing deeper into the woods to explore. At first, everything seemed normal. Then, in the distance, she spotted something unusual. A massive, shadowy figure moved between the trees, partially hidden. Heart racing, she kept recording, trying to make sense of what she saw. Even though the footage was blurry, the creature's shape matched classic Bigfoot descriptions. What stood out most were its feet. As it stepped, one leg revealed a large pale foot, a detail rarely captured in other sightings. Some people were convinced it was the real Bigfoot, while others insisted it was someone in a costume. What do you think? A man was hiking alone through the Appalachian Mountains during a quiet stretch of the day. Suddenly, an elderly man appeared, walking toward him from the opposite direction. As they passed shoulder to shoulder, the older man softly spoke a warning.
Don't step off the trail.
A few seconds later, an uneasy feeling set in. The hiker stopped and turned around, but the trail behind him was empty. Shaken, the hiker stayed on the marked trail and finished the hike as quickly as possible. To this day, he still wonders who that man was and how he vanished so suddenly into the Appalachian woods. But was this a real encounter, or a story created by AI? TikToker Maya Azka joined a film crew in Indonesia and arrived early at Telaga Biru, a lake on the slopes of Gunung Gede, a mountain long linked to myths, spirits, and supernatural encounters. With filming not scheduled to begin until the next day and no actors present, she spent some time alone near the lake, taking photos of the scenery. When she tried to record a video, her phone suddenly malfunctioned. The screen went blank and the record button wouldn't respond at all, something she said had never happened to her before. Hours later, while reviewing the photos, she noticed something unsettling. In one image, a figure appears to be standing on the surface of the water. It looks like a woman with long, dark hair, positioned in a way that doesn't seem physically possible. Maya insists that no one was there when the photos were taken. In Indonesian folklore, Telaga Biru is believed to be inhabited by a guardian spirit, often described as a woman in white. She is said to be both protective and territorial. Hikers frequently report feeling watched or experiencing strange sensations near the water. Locals often refer to this entity as the Queen of Telaga Biru. Maya shared the image online and invited viewers, especially those who claimed to be sensitive to spiritual phenomena, to take a closer look. Many commenters responded, saying the figure looked undeniably supernatural. Two men were walking through a forest at night when they found a moss-covered mound with a metal hatch on top. They opened the hatch and climbed inside. It led to an underground chamber with a pool of water and a narrow tunnel along one side. They entered the tunnel and moved forward while crouching. The passage was too low to stand in. The walls were damp and the space smelled old, suggesting it had not been disturbed for a long time. The tunnel continued into darkness and did not end within the visible footage. They couldn't find any information about it online. No one seemed to know it existed. What was it for? A camper was walking back to his campsite late at night after spending time in the woods. The area seemed quiet at first. Then he noticed movement in the nearby bushes and used his phone's flashlight to record. He didn't see it clearly with his own eyes, but when he watched the footage back, he was terrified. The video appeared to show a headless figure slowly rising from the brush. After a brief moment, it lowered itself back into the bushes. Was it just an animal caught at a strange angle, or something far more sinister? What the camper did next is unknown. A woman was driving through Alberta, Canada, when she noticed something unusual in the distance and quickly pulled out her phone to record. The video, later shared on TikTok by user Nevzi, shows a large group of people dressed entirely in white walking in a perfectly straight line across an empty field. Their movements appear slow and coordinated, almost ritualistic. Because of the all-white clothing and the formation, many viewers began comparing the scene to well-known cult groups. The original uploader later posted an update claiming the group was actually a Ukrainian choir filming a video. However, many viewers remained skeptical. Whether it truly was a choir rehearsal or something else entirely, the unusual scene continues to leave people uneasy. A woman named Jill had gone out for a simple walk at the iJams Nature Center in Knoxville, hoping to clear her head after a stressful day.
This dude's just sitting here staring at me.
But her peaceful stroll quickly turned unsettling when she noticed a man following her.
He gave me a weird feeling.
Nervous but determined, Jill pulled out her phone and started recording, sending the video to a friend just in case something happened.
He went out on that overlook right there.
For 10 long minutes, the man didn't leave, adjusting his position in ways that made her uneasy.
I realized that nobody was coming.
When he approached her directly, she let out a scream. A couple nearby came to check, but Jill knew she couldn't rely on them. Using a stick for protection, she bravely chased the man out of the park, refusing to let fear take over. Her video went viral, helping authorities identify and capture him. Luckily, she managed to get away. But if she hadn't, terrifying. The Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization shared an interesting photo on Facebook. At first glance, it looks like a normal hiking picture. A man stands on the trail, completely unaware of anything unusual around him. When you look closer, something appears to be standing just a few feet away. Rising from the brush in front of him is a tall, dark shape. There seems to be a head, broad shoulders, and a solid body partially hidden among the trees. The figure blends almost perfectly into the surroundings. Of course, there's a much simpler explanation. It could be pareidolia, the human brain turning shadows, branches, and uneven foliage into something that looks human. Maybe it's just a twisted tree trunk, a broken branch, or a patch of darker leaves creating the illusion of a face and shoulders. But supporters argue that Bigfoot is often described as a master of camouflage, standing still and blending into forests, just like this. So when you look at the image, what do you see? In June of 1978, newlyweds Richard and Judy Wees were out prospecting during their honeymoon when they crossed paths with Ronald Gress in Nevada's remote Black Rock Desert. Tragically, Gress attacked them and even their dog, leaving them where they fell. A week later, another desert dweller, Peter Cashnot, came across the scene. Before he could get help, he too met a deadly fate. Gress lived alone near a hot spring, almost 50 miles from the nearest town. He had a long history of mental illness and violent behavior. Police eventually caught him about 10 days later. He was convicted on 3 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, where he remained until his death in 2013. A person appeared in a local county group showing an unusual shape near a lake. The image was taken by a homeowner from across the water. In the photo, a grey mound is visible, identified as a concrete structure that slopes into the lake from beneath a bridge. The object appears to be positioned just behind this concrete mound and seems to be standing at the water's edge. The location is difficult to access, making it unlikely that a person could have reached the spot easily. Later, it was noted that a father and son drowned at this lake earlier this year. Some commenters said the shape looks like something holding a child. Do you see it? A Facebook user was hiking near an old abandoned church ruin built in 1067, a place long known to be haunted. They took several photos of the site and then continued on their walk. When they later reviewed the images, they noticed something unusual. What appeared to be a figure in a white dress seemed to be standing there, even though no one else had been present at the time. The user stated that nothing had been added to the photo, it had only been slightly zoomed in and brightened to make the figure clearer. They are convinced that what they captured is a ghost. A woman living near a wooded area stepped outside one night to take a photo of her yard. She aimed the camera toward the tree line to show how far her outdoor lights reached, not expecting anything unusual. When she checked the image, she noticed a faint face. The photo was later brightened to clarify details, and the face became even more visible. No one online seems to have an explanation, not even the usual camera glitch or optical illusion. Something is there. A hiker wandered deeper into the woods when he noticed something unusual. One tree stood out from the rest, its trunk bent and twisted into an unnatural shape. There were no signs of cutting or human tools, and the surrounding trees were straight and healthy. It looked as if the tree had been forced into position by extreme pressure. Some believe damage like this could be caused by storms, heavy snow, or long-term stress on the wood. But that explanation doesn't fully add up, because this was the only tree in the area twisted in such an extreme way, while all the surrounding trees remained straight and undisturbed. Others speculate it could be intentional, pointing to theories about large animals or even Bigfoot using twisted trees as markers or signals. Without clear evidence, the true cause remains unknown. A TikTok user named Ben Trolley was walking alone through the woods at night when he suddenly felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Pausing and shining his flashlight in the direction of the feeling, he caught sight of something terrifying. A humanoid shape emerged from the darkness, with glowing eyes staring directly at him. It stepped partially out of the bushes and remained still for several seconds, seemingly aware of the man's presence. The man quickly stopped recording and ran. Some believe it resembles descriptions of the cryptid known as the rake, while others argue it could be a normal animal caught in the camera's light, appearing distorted due to distance and zoom. Two friends were exploring an abandoned mine when this photo was taken during their visit. At the time, nothing seemed unusual. The mine was quiet, empty, and exactly what they expected from a long-forgotten site. It wasn't until they got home and began going through their photos that something unsettling stood out. In one image, just behind one of the men, what appears to be a face can be seen emerging from the darkness. Neither of them had noticed anyone else inside the mine. The location itself already carried a heavy history. Locals had previously mentioned that someone had lost their life there years ago. Near the mine's entrance, the story seems to be confirmed. Several candles have been placed around the area, and a welded metal cross, nearly 2 meters tall, stood fixed nearby. A quiet memorial and a reminder of the tragedy tied to the site. Whether the face in the photo was a trick of light, pareidolia, or something connected to the mine's past remains unclear. But after noticing it, neither of them felt the same about that visit again. A man was exploring a remote area in Mexico when he stumbled across something unusual. A massive bone was lying there alone. According to him, there was no river or lake nearby, and no known animals in the area that could produce a bone this size. Is it something we don't know about, or was it all staged to get views? I don't necessarily think it was staged, but what would explain it then? Two friends were walking home late at night through a quiet, forested area. As they walked, they passed a man coming from the opposite direction. The moment they crossed him, he did not acknowledge them, and both felt an instant sense that something was wrong. Within seconds, they turned around to look back. The man was gone.
Nuestra vida cambió. Buenas noches.
Buenas.
Buenas.
¿Eh? ¿Estando mal?
Sí.
Ah, no te pases de bestia.
No mames.
No mames.
¿Qué pedo?
There were no footsteps, no sounds, and no sign of where he had gone. Was it a ghost or just a really strange man? And if it was a person, how and why did he disappear like that? A family had been staying at their grandfather's ranch. At 2 a.m., they planned to leave, so the car was started early because of the cold. Two cousins went outside, and one accidentally turned on the camera instead of the flashlight. The light briefly revealed a figure shaped like a young boy, standing still with his head tilted and an unusual facial appearance. The figure didn't move or respond. Terrified, they ran back inside and told the others. The next morning, ranch workers mentioned that a child had died in that same spot years earlier. If the story is true, it's terrifying. But how can we really know? After a day of hiking, a man drove past a forest and noticed something unusual. A woman was standing near the trees with her child. The area was fairly isolated, which made the scene feel unsettling. They didn't ask for help or react to the car. The man slowed down to observe, but eventually drove off, admitting the situation felt strange. When he uploaded the video, opinions were divided. Some suggested it was just a homeless mother, others thought it looked like a mannequin, and some even warned it could be a trap to lure people into the woods. What do you think? A man was hiking through a quiet forest when he decided to record his surroundings. That's when something unusual appeared on the trail ahead. A shadow, shaped exactly like a human, crossed the path, yet no one was there to cast it. Could it simply have been a trick of the light? Honestly, the clarity of the human shape makes it hard to believe it was just an illusion, right? A man was hiking near the Michigan border when something in the woods made him pause. He was following a clear path, dense bushes lining either side, when he suddenly felt like he was being watched. Glancing to his right, he noticed a pale face peeking out from the foliage. It was only partially visible, hidden between leaves and branches, but the shape of it was striking, almost ape-like, yet human at the same time. He raised his camera and snapped a few photos, capturing the unsettling moment. He believed it could be a glimpse of Bigfoot, but many online agree it looks more like pareidolia. A person was hiking in India when something unusual appeared in the night sky, and he quickly began recording. At first, a distant light could be seen moving slowly, but as the camera focused, it became clear that it didn't resemble a normal aircraft. The object appeared to have a defined shape, with a dark body and several bright lights glowing underneath, giving the impression of a craft silently hovering in the sky. Some viewers suggested it might simply be a drone or an experimental aircraft. Others believed it looked more like something associated with UFO or UAP sightings. While hiking along the Grey Mare's Tail in Scotland, this person took a few photos of the scenery. The images showed the river, the empty hills, and not only that. When they zoomed in, a white figure appeared to be sitting on the rocks. Beside it, another bright shape. The hiker explained that the area is extremely isolated. There is no trail leading to that spot, and he hadn't seen a single person nearby. Some say it's pareidolia, but can this really just be pareidolia? 19-year-old Sam Benestick went on a 10-day camping and fishing trip in Redfern-Kiley Provincial Park, British Columbia, when he didn't return on schedule and was reported missing on October 19th. Search teams scoured the rugged mountains and forests, but despite days of searching, there was no sign of him. Volunteers, police, and helicopters joined the efforts, but the terrain was challenging and remote. After more than 50 days, on November 26th, 2 men spotted him walking alone in the wilderness. Sam had survived by finding shelter near a creek, building a small campsite, and using parts of his sleeping bag to stay warm through freezing temperatures around minus 20 degrees Celsius. Although there are no detailed reports on exactly what he ate, he was clearly limited to minimal nutrition while he waited and moved toward rescue. He was weak and malnourished, but alive. After being rescued, Sam was taken to the hospital and began recovering physically and mentally from the ordeal. A man was driving through a forested area late at night when his dash cam recorded a strange figure on the side of the road. The figure looked like a woman in a long white dress, with her head bent down. The man said he didn't notice it at the time, but later found it while showing his family the road he'd been driving at night, because something about the road had already left him feeling creeped out. Imagine going back through your footage and suddenly finding this. Reddit user Independent Suit 415 posted a photo captured near Saltpeter Cave on a neighbor's trail camera. In the shot, something stands in the woods that at first glance doesn't look normal. To many, it looked like a pale crawler. But most people argue it's nothing more than a deer, hunched over and turned at an odd angle, making its legs and body look spooky in the infrared image. So was this a strange creature caught on trail cam, or just a deer in bad lighting? A person was walking alone at night through a forested area when they suddenly felt like they were being watched. Looking up into a tree, they noticed a pair of glowing eyes staring down from the branches. At first, they assumed it was an animal and started recording, but as their vision adjusted, the shape appeared more human-like. It didn't blink or move. Only the head and eyes were visible, making it nearly impossible to identify. The person ran the rest of their route, terrified by what they saw. But what did they see? On May 4th, 2017, 23-year-old Madeline Connolly went hiking in Montana's Great Bear Wilderness near Glacier National Park while visiting her uncle. She planned a short hike with her dog, Mogi, but left without food, gear, or a map. Her car was later found at the trailhead with all her supplies still inside. Madeline took a wrong turn and walked deeper into the wilderness, likely confused by the terrain and snow. When night fell, she realized she was lost. A large search began, involving helicopters, ground teams, horses, dogs, and trackers. Bear tracks were even found near her footprints, raising concern for her safety. Madeline survived for 6 days in freezing conditions. She drank stream water and melted snow, and slept under trees, using natural shelter to stay protected. With no food or proper supplies, she managed by moving cautiously and resting when she needed to. On May 10th, searchers found her alive near a creek drainage about 5 miles from her vehicle. She had no serious injuries, and her dog was unharmed. The pair was rescued by a helicopter and taken to safety, where she was reunited with her family. In western Massachusetts, a camper reported seeing something strange during a routine trip in the woods. He noticed a tall brown figure standing among broken tree branches. The shape appeared to be over 7 feet tall and blended in with the surrounding trees. From a distance, it was hard to tell whether it was just a large branch or something else entirely. He couldn't even tell if it was moving. Instead of getting closer, he took a photo and left the area, wondering if he had just glimpsed Bigfoot or if it was simply pareidolia playing tricks on his eyes. A woman was driving through the Appalachian Mountains when she noticed a strange, isolated house tucked just off the dirt road. Curious, she pulled over and decided to take a closer look. As she stepped out of her car, she began recording while slowly approaching the house. That's when she noticed something unsettling.
Look at this. What the fuck?
A figure was sitting on the porch, dressed in a strange outfit and completely motionless. The house itself appeared abandoned, overgrown, silent, yet one light was still on. Was someone actually living there? And if so, why place such a disturbing figure on the porch? A farmer in rural Michigan was reviewing footage from a game camera on his property after receiving a motion alert late one night. The camera was positioned deep within a dense forest, far from roads, homes, airports, or any known light sources. Expecting to see deer or other wildlife, he was caught completely off guard by what appeared on the footage. In the middle of the night, a bright beam of light appeared from above. There were no vehicles, no people, and no visible source that could explain the light. Nothing else was captured before or after the event. The farmer couldn't determine what caused it, and to this day, the footage still leaves him uneasy. While hiking alone in the courthouse wash area of Arches National Park, a man stepped onto what looked like solid ground, but in an instant, it gave way. His legs sank deep into wet sand, tightening around him as he struggled. The more he moved, the worse it became. Within moments, he was trapped, unable to pull himself free. As temperatures dropped and the sun began to set, the situation became dangerous. Spending the night exposed in the desert, cold, wasn't an option. He managed to activate his GPS satellite messenger and sent out an emergency SOS. Search and rescue teams responded quickly, using a drone to locate him in the vast landscape. When they reached him, the sand kept collapsing back into the hole as they dug, making the rescue difficult. After nearly 2 hours, rescuers finally freed him. He was cold, exhausted, but unharmed. Park officials later warned hikers that quicksand can form after moisture builds up in desert washes, and stressed the importance of carrying emergency devices, because sometimes the ground beneath you isn't as solid as it looks. On October 10, 2024, around 9 PM, a man was standing near the lakeshore in Pickering, Canada. The night sky was clear and calm, so he decided to take a photo. At first, the image looked like a normal night sky shot, but when he looked closer, he realized he had captured something unexpected. A group of bright lights appeared overhead. They were evenly spaced and arranged in a straight line across the sky. The man shared the photo online, where people began debating what the lights could be. Some suggested satellites, others thought drones, but no confirmed explanation was ever given. To this day, the source and purpose of those lights remains unknown. A group of friends were spending the night in a remote forest. At some point, one of them suddenly slipped, nearly disappearing into the ground beneath him. It was pitch dark, and none of them could see what he had almost fallen into. They quickly grabbed a flashlight and aimed it toward the spot. The light revealed something terrifying. A deep, narrow hole dropping straight down into the earth. Even with the flashlight pointed inside, they couldn't see the bottom. Had he reacted even a split second later, the fall could have ended very differently, with serious injury or something far worse. While spending a fun night outdoors with friends, this group decided to take time photos using a phone placed inside a mailbox. They stood across the street near a cornfield and took 2 photos back to back. Later, while reviewing the images, they noticed something unsettling. One photo appeared completely normal, but in the second, something could be seen behind one of them, something that hadn't been there just moments earlier. No one noticed anything at the time, and the photos were taken only seconds apart. To make it easier to see, the second image was likely edited using basic brightness and contrast adjustments. The group still isn't sure what was with them that night. Was it something paranormal, or simply an insect or object passing very close to the camera lens? They shared the images online, hoping someone could help explain what they captured. This security camera captured something that left viewers deeply unsettled. Perched high among the branches, a humanoid figure can be seen looking downward. The figure appears to have long, dark hair and is dressed in what looks like a flowing white gown. Because of its position in the tree, some viewers were quick to draw comparisons to figures from Greek mythology, such as nymphs or dryads, spirits said to be bound to trees and forests, representing nature's life force. The person who shared the footage insists it is authentic and says they are genuinely searching for an explanation. However, online reactions were divided. Many people immediately dismissed the video as edited or staged, suggesting it was created to attract attention. Others weren't so sure. Unfortunately, there is no verifiable proof confirming whether the footage is real or manipulated. No follow-up evidence was ever provided. As it stands, the video remains unverified, leaving viewers to decide for themselves whether it captures something extraordinary or something carefully constructed. After 4 days of searching, deputies in Florida finally found a missing man deep in the woods. For a while, they weren't sure he would be found alive. The 72-year-old man had been reported missing on December 15th, which led to a silver alert and a large search effort. For days, there were no clues. On December 19th, a citizen reported an abandoned vehicle near North Old Dixie Highway. Deputies confirmed it belonged to the missing man and searched the nearby woods. About 50 yards from the car, they found him unconscious but still breathing. He was very weak and unable to move. Deputies believe he had fallen against a tree and became pinned in place, making it hard to breathe. Because the area was hard to reach, officers carefully carried him out of the woods and drove him to meet medical crews. He had survived several days without food or water. Why this man was in the woods was not shared. Two girls decided to pull over in Sedona to lie on the ground and look at the stars. They snapped a few photos, took a fun video, and were just about ready to leave. But that's when they realized they weren't alone.
They were like waiting for us. Wait, they're gone. Oh wait. No, they're still there.
Way down
They're just looking back and forth. Is that a person? It's a person. I think we're scaring. No, that's not a person.
A person was standing in the distance, completely dressed in white. They mentioned there were no other cars in the lot. He wasn't wearing a headlamp, and he wasn't dressed like someone out for a nighttime hike. Terrified, the friends drove away fast, and to this day, they still have no idea who was out there with them that night. Denver, Colorado, summer 1938. On Quebec Street lived William and Snowdrop Bellharts and their 10 children. Their youngest was 4-year-old Alfred, small, energetic, deeply loved. Like many families escaping the city heat, they planned a 4th of July camping trip to Rocky Mountain National Park. They arrived on July 2nd. Their campsite sat a quarter-mile west of Fall River Lodge, near the meeting of the Roaring and Fall Rivers, just below Horseshoe Falls. The next morning, July 3rd, the family woke early. William walked to a nearby stream to wash up. Alfred followed. 2 family friends, Orrin Bronson and Walter Hansen, were heading upstream about 500 feet away. When William finished, he turned back toward camp. Alfred told him he wanted to follow Orrin and Walter instead and would return with them. William agreed. It was a small decision, one that would haunt him forever. A short time later, Orrin and Walter returned to camp. Alfred was not with them. At first, no one panicked. He must have wandered off the trail. He couldn't be far. But when shouts went unanswered, concern turned to fear. Rangers were notified immediately. Search efforts focused on the confluence of the rivers where Alfred was last seen. Bloodhounds were brought in from the state penitentiary in Canyon City. The dogs repeatedly led handlers to the riverbank. Then they picked up a scent and followed it nearly 1.5 miles along the water. At a bridge they hesitated, uncertain whether the trail crossed. One dog veered up the Lawn Lake Trail. Searchers expanded in that direction. Unfortunately, there was no sign of the boy. 2 theories quickly emerged. Alfred had fallen into the roaring river and drowned, or he had been taken by wildlife, possibly a black bear. On July 4th, rangers constructed a makeshift dam using sandbags, rocks, and logs to slow the river's flow. They searched the exposed riverbed thoroughly. If Alfred had drowned, logic said he would have been found. He wasn't. William and Snowdrop refused to believe their son had drowned. They believed he was still alive, somewhere in the forest. The search pushed deeper into the dense woodland. Volunteers, rangers, law enforcement, members of the Civilian Conservation Corps. Nearly 150 men combed the terrain for 10 days. Nothing. On the 5th day, a troubling discovery surfaced. Inside an abandoned cabin about 1 mile away, searchers found a gauze bandage. Alfred had been wearing one on his heel. He said Alfred hated bandages and often tore them off. It raised a chilling possibility. Maybe he hadn't fallen into the river at all. Then came a report from Mount Chapin. A Denver man claimed he had seen a small boy matching Alfred's description near Devil's Nest, 6 miles west of the campsite. A brutal, rugged climb. Nearly impossible terrain for a 4-year-old alone. Climbers searched the area, but no child was ever found. Soon after, a woman in western Nebraska reported seeing a boy resembling Alfred walking along a highway beside a man. That lead also went nowhere. On July 13th, 10 days after Alfred vanished, the official search was called off. The Civilian Conservation Corps was dismissed. The Beilhart's family returned to Denver without their youngest son. 5 months later, a letter arrived. Handwritten, crude. It demanded $500. The drop location was 1 block from their home. Police staked out the site and arrested a man and a woman, but they were merely extortionists exploiting the tragedy. The ransom note was a hoax, and Alfred never came home. A man was going through old family photos and videos taken nearly 40 years ago. The footage showed him spending time with his father and siblings during a family outing. Nothing unusual at first. But while watching the footage again decades later, he noticed something he had never seen before. In the background, a figure could be seen standing. When he asked his family about it, they all confirmed the same thing. No one else was there that day. There were no strangers nearby, no friends, no passers-by. Yet the figure was clearly visible in the footage. Confused and unsettled, the man shared the images online, hoping someone could explain what he had found. But shortly after posting them, his account was deleted. No explanation was given, no follow-up was ever posted. And the man who shared the footage was never heard from again. Reddit user OG Cheddar Goblin shared a trail camera image he received from a friend. The photo was taken by the friend's uncle's trail camera. The image shows a deer standing still, but directly behind it is a human-like figure. It could be someone wearing a hoodie, but what makes it unsettling is how close the figure appears to be to the deer. Normally, a deer wouldn't allow anything to stand that close without reacting. They confirmed the deer was real and appeared in multiple images from the same camera. The person, however, appeared only once. Was it really a person standing there, or something else? In the summer of 2015, the Kunz family took a short trip to Timber Creek Campground in Ladore, Idaho, a gateway that should have been simple and peaceful. The group includes parents Jessica Mitchell and Vernal DeOr Kunz Sr., their 2-year-old son DeOrs Kunz Jr., Jessica's grandfather Robert Bob Walton, and family friend Isaac Reinwand. The family left Idaho Falls on July 9, 2015. Walton and Reinwand traveled in a separate vehicle and met the young family at the remote campground later that night. They arrived after dark. Little DeOr helped set up the camp and gather around the fire before everyone settled in, blissfully unaware that the next day would turn into a nightmare. The morning of July 10th began like any other camping trip. The family lounged near the campsite, enjoying the quiet. At one point, Jessica asked her grandfather Bob to watch DeOr while she and Vernal joined Isaac to walk a short distance away to fish. A simple, ordinary request. But by 2 p.m., everything changed. When Jessica and Vernal returned, DeOr was gone. They searched frantically, calling his name. When he didn't appear, Vernal jumped into his truck and drove down the dirt road until he could get cell reception. Jessica's phone briefly connected at the campground, and she placed a 911 call at 2:28 p.m.
What's the address of your emergency?
I'm actually camping in Ledore, just outside of Ledore.
Uh-huh.
My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
Okay, what is he wearing?
He was wearing cowboy boots, a blue, pair, like pajama pants, and a camel jacket. And he's got shaggy blonde hair.
Is your husband calling too?
Like, all down where we were camping at, and we can't find him at all.
No one else had been camping near them that day. The area was boxed in, a hill on one side, and an 8 to 10 foot drop to a creek on the other. Vernal insisted later, "It's such a small area. People assume we let him wander off, but there's no way you couldn't see him." By 3:45 p.m., search and rescue teams arrived. For 2 weeks, crews scoured the ground, the creek, and the surrounding wilderness. Helicopters, divers, dogs, nothing brought answers. Then, a shocking twist. In January 2016, 6 months after the disappearance, Sheriff Lynn Bowerman announced that DeOr's parents were now persons of interest.
Basically, I was saying they were the top persons of interest, but, actually, yeah, I believe they're suspects. After a extensive week of interviewing, re-interviewing, and an announcement from the FBI that they were being less than truthful on their polygraphs, and a lot of irregularities and discrepancies in their interviews. I felt it was necessary to come forward and say that the parents are being less than truthful.
He told reporters that both parents had been less than truthful, pointing to inconsistencies in their statements and polygraph results. This opened the door to speculation. Had something happened to D'Or that the adults were hiding? The case grew more troubling months later. In 2016, the couple was evicted from their home for unpaid rent, and among the belongings they left behind was D'Or's camouflage jacket, the very one they claimed he was wearing when he disappeared. The discovery only deepened doubts and suspicions. Despite years of investigation, no arrests have ever been made. No remains have ever been found. To this day, the disappearance of D'Or Kunz Jr. remains one of Idaho's most haunting, unsolved cases. A couple went to a local cemetery to practice night photography. They took several photos and left without noticing anything unusual. Later that night, while reviewing the images, they spotted a human-like figure. The figure appeared to be standing behind a tree in the background. It was not visible at the time the photo was taken, and also not visible in any of the other photos. Was it an apparition of someone buried there, or another person? It would have been helpful if they had included the other photos as well. But if what they're saying is true, it's definitely interesting footage. A man set up a camera in a forest and connected it to his phone for remote viewing. While watching the live feed, a large animal walked past the camera. The footage was reviewed multiple times, and while the size and movement suggested a large animal, the camera angle didn't capture enough detail for a positive identification. Because the full body was never seen, the species of the animal remains uncertain. It would have been helpful if they had shared the location, so we'd know what kind of wildlife to compare it to. A scout was patrolling a remote area at night when he heard strange, unfamiliar sounds. He moved closer, using his camera and flashlight to scan the surroundings. Suddenly, a white figure appeared among the bushes and trees. It moved through vegetation in a way that didn't match any known animal. The figure shifted positions, trying to stay hidden, before eventually disappearing from sight. Was it an animal, a person, or something else entirely?
Around 4 a.m., a woman was driving alone through a remote, isolated area. The road was completely empty. No traffic, no lights, no nearby activity. As she passed a wooded stretch, her dashcam captured something unexpected. A humanoid figure was standing on the right side of the road. Unsettled by what she saw, the woman didn't slow down or stop. She kept driving, leaving the figure behind in the darkness. Who, or what, could have been standing out there, in such a remote place, at such a late hour?
While hiking in Southern California, this man came across something that immediately caught his attention. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a rough grey rock. But from one specific angle, something unsettling became clear. A human skull shape appeared in the stone. The features didn't look carved or etched in afterward. Curious, he decided to take it home. After sharing the images online, reactions came quickly. Many people urged him to return it to where he found it, warning that objects like this are often associated with bad luck or curses. So, would you have taken something like this home, or left it exactly where it was found? In October 2020, 38-year-old Holly Courtier, a mother and experienced hiker from California, set off alone for a visit to Zion National Park in Utah. She had recently lost her job due to the pandemic and was going through personal struggles. According to her family, hiking was her escape, her way to find peace. On October 6th, Holly boarded a park shuttle to the Grotto, a popular stop near the trailhead to Angel's Landing, one of Zion's most visited trails. She told no one her exact plans and left behind her phone to disconnect, according to her daughter. She was supposed to return on a 4:40 p.m. shuttle that day, but she never came back, and no one knew where she had gone. 2 days later, after hearing nothing, her family reported her missing. A massive search and rescue operation was launched, involving drones, tracking dogs, ground teams, and helicopter patrols. Rangers and volunteers covered large portions of the park's rugged landscape. Days passed, and there was no sign of Holly. No gear, no footprints, no sightings. Park rangers warned that conditions were becoming dangerous. Temperatures at night were dropping fast. Still, her daughter, Kaylee, remained hopeful, sharing missing posters online and pleading for help. Then, on October 18th, 12 days after she disappeared, searchers found Holly near the Virgin River, only 0.5 miles or 800 meters from where she had been dropped off. She was reportedly severely dehydrated, had lost between 15 and 18 pounds, and had sustained a head injury. Her daughter said she had been so weak she could barely stand. She was rushed to a hospital and, to everyone's relief, survived. But what began as a feel-good survival story soon took a strange turn. Almost immediately, people began to ask, how did she survive that long so close to the trailhead in a heavily trafficked area without being found? Searchers said they had already searched the exact area where she was located multiple times using helicopters and dogs. The dogs had not picked up a scent. Then came another major concern: the water. Holly's daughter claimed she had survived by drinking water from the Virgin River. But at the time, Zion National Park had issued a toxic cyanobacteria warning, a dangerous blue-green algae bloom that made the water unsafe to drink or even touched. According to medical professionals and outdoor experts, drinking untreated river water contaminated with cyanobacteria for 12 days should have caused serious illness, possibly organ failure or death. Yet Holly had no such symptoms. The inconsistencies led many to believe that Holly hadn't been in that area the entire time, and may have returned there just before being found. Some speculated she had hidden in a cave or had been assisted by someone, possibly staying out of sight during the search. Adding to the suspicion was a GoFundMe campaign launched by her family shortly after her rescue. The campaign raised over $112,000, supposedly for medical bills and Holly's recovery. Some critics questioned the timing and motive, wondering whether the disappearance had been exaggerated or staged to generate sympathy and donations. The story began trending on social media, with many users accusing the family of faking the event or at least withholding details. Amid growing pressure, the Washington County's Sheriff's Office conducted an investigation. In early November 2020, they announced there was no evidence of fraud and no charges were being filed. They confirmed that Holly had been found alive and in need of help, but they could not explain the medical inconsistencies nor her exact movements during the 12 days she was missing. Her daughter maintained that Holly had suffered a mental health episode, possibly triggered by the head injury, and became paranoid, hiding from rescuers because she believed someone was trying to harm her. Holly Courtier has never publicly shared a full account of what happened during those 12 days in Zion. Some believe it was a case of genuine survival under bizarre circumstances. Others believe we still don't know the full story. Did she truly survive alone in the wilderness for nearly 2 weeks? Or was she somewhere else, waiting to return? The case of Holly Courtier remains one of the most debated wilderness rescues in recent memory. A TikTok user was recording a goofy video with a doll. Their content is usually light and nothing to do with ghosts, but after uploading, viewers noticed a figure across the water. It looked like a small girl, standing completely still. The creator said no one else was around and had made sure of it just before recording. When people zoomed in, the figure looked even stranger. The skin was very pale, the face had no clear details, and the arms seemed to stretch unnaturally. She still doesn't know what was standing in the water that day, but it left her terrified. A trail camera was set up near Mount Shasta after reports of strange activity. A researcher placed several cameras in the area to record what was happening. During a routine check, one camera was missing and was later found far from its original spot. He went home to review the footage and discovered something unsettling. The recording showed a frightening, man-like figure moving through the area. The clip was shared with local residents and online groups. Some believed it was some kind of creature, while others suggested it was a person wearing a mask or costume. That explanation is likely, but it doesn't make it any less disturbing. Who was this, and why would they do this? To prank the community? A hiker was walking through a wooded area on the outskirts of Tennessee. The region had very few residents and little foot traffic. During the hike, the hiker noticed a tree with an unusual carved symbol. It didn't look like a normal trail mark or a name. The hiker posted the image online to ask for explanations. Some people said it was likely just a simple tag left by someone, while others suggested it could have a darker meaning. The hiker described feeling uneasy during this hike for no apparent reason, something he had never experienced before. Does anyone know what this symbol means? On December 13th, 2025, Matthew Aldridge, a 26-year-old from Bend, Oregon, attempted to summit Mount Hood with two friends. The climb began at the Mount Hood Meadows Resort. As weather conditions rapidly worsened, the others made the decision to turn back, but Matthew chose to continue the ascent alone. When his friends failed to hear from him, they reported him overdue at around 11:30 a.m. that morning. Search and rescue teams immediately launched an operation using aircraft, ground crews, and cell phone location data. The signal pointed to an area near Pea Gravel Ridge, above 8,400 feet, suggesting Matthew may have suffered a fall. Despite extreme conditions, deep snow, strong winds, and limited visibility, rescue teams reached the location but found no sign of him. Repeated attempts to continue the search were forced to stop due to unsafe weather. On December 14th, authorities officially shifted the mission from rescue to recovery, stating the risk to responders had become too great. As of now, no physical trace of Matthew Aldridge has been found. Mount Hood is known for rapidly changing weather, steep terrain, and deadly winter conditions, factors that have complicated searches there in the past. At the time of writing, there have been no further updates, and Matthew's disappearance remains unsolved. In September, a man visited the Old Finch Avenue Bridge in Scarborough, Ontario, a place long associated with eerie legends and unexplained sightings. According to local folklore, the bridge is haunted by the ghost of a young girl, said to have died tragically near the site decades ago. Some say she was struck by a car. As he explored the area, he took a few photos of the bridge. He later stated that the bridge was completely empty. He saw nothing unusual during his walk. Eventually, he left the bridge without incident. But later, while sharing the photos with friends, they noticed something he hadn't. In one of the shots, a pale figure appeared on the bridge. It hadn't been visible at the scene. When the image was enhanced, the shape became clearer. It seemed to resemble a woman in a long white dress standing motionless on the structure. The man insisted there had been no one else present. A woman entered a remote park area with her camera, hoping to photograph wildlife. She had traveled roughly 16 kilometers from the main road when she noticed something strange. Several trees had their bark cut away in a deliberate pattern. The markings formed a visible trail. Curious, she decided to follow it. The trail led to an unsettling discovery: collapsed tent, partially buried under the snow. Nearby, a foam sleeping mat and two tarps lay abandoned. All of the gear appeared relatively new, not weathered or old. Close to the campsite, steps had been carved into the ground, leading down toward a nearby river. No people were anywhere in sight. The scene felt wrong. The woman later said she couldn't stop wondering whether someone had been injured, gone missing, or worse. Uncomfortable with what she had found, she left the area and reported it. To this day, no further updates have ever been shared. This man was shocked when he reviewed footage from his trail camera. The camera captured a pale figure moving through tall grass. The image was taken inside a privately fenced area where no one should have been. That detail only deepened the mystery of who, or what, had been there. To this day, he has never discovered what his trail camera recorded that night. On August 14th, 2004, Lindsay Cutshall, 22, and Jason Allen, 26, were traveling along the California coast near Jenner, California. The young couple was visiting from the Midwest and had been working together at a Christian summer camp. They were deeply religious, engaged, and just weeks away from getting married. That evening, after spending time exploring the area, they tried to find a motel to stay the night. When no rooms were available, they made a decision that would later prove fatal. They chose to sleep on Fishhead Beach, laying their sleeping bags directly on the sand beneath the open sky. Unbeknownst to them, a man named Sean Michael Gallen was driving along Highway 1 that same night. Gallen was suffering from severe mental illness and was experiencing psychotic delusions. As he passed the beach, he noticed the couple sleeping in the open. Instead of continuing on, Gallen stopped his car and did the unthinkable. He retrieved a firearm, walked down to the beach, and shot both Lindsay and Jason at close range, taking their life as they slept. He then fled the scene, leaving their bodies behind. For 4 days, the couple remained undiscovered, until on August 18th, a sheriff's helicopter flying over the coastline spotted the two bodies on the beach, still in their sleeping bags. The discovery shocked the community and devastated both families. For years, the case went unsolved. Despite evidence collected at the scene, no suspect was identified, and the murders became one of Northern California's most haunting cold cases. More than a decade later, advances in DNA technology finally provided a breakthrough. In 2017, Sean Gallen was arrested and charged with the murders. During their investigation, it became clear that he'd been living with untreated schizophrenia at the time of the killings. In 2019, Gallen was convicted and sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The murders of Lindsay Cutshall and Jason Allen remain a tragic reminder of how a simple decision, made during what should have been a joyful chapter of life, can end in unimaginable loss. Their story continues to resonate as one of the most heartbreaking and senseless crimes along California's coast. While hiking near Switzer Falls in the Angeles National Forest, 2 hikers suddenly found themselves in serious trouble. It was a Saturday evening, and as daylight faded, both hikers suddenly slipped and fell into a creek. They were soaked, cold, and stranded in the dark. Cell service was unavailable, leaving them with no way to call for help. Realizing the danger of the situation, they activated a satellite SOS device they were carrying. The signal transmitted their exact location to rescue teams. While waiting, the hikers did what they could to survive the night. They started a small fire, dried their clothes, and changed into dry socks to prevent hypothermia. Around 7 p.m., the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department received the emergency alert and began a rescue operation. When responders reached the hikers, they safely extinguished the fire and escorted both individuals back along the trail to the parking lot. Fortunately, no serious injuries were reported. During a hike on one of Colorado's Fortiniers, a Reddit user took this photo. Nothing unusual was noticed at the location at the time. Later, while driving away, they noticed something in the photo. A strange shape appeared in the clouds on the right side of the mountain. It looked like a face. The image was shared online. Most viewers said it was just a natural cloud formation. Some mentioned pareidolia, where the brain sees familiar shapes in random patterns. It was probably just a coincidence. Earlier this year, on January 19th, experienced mountaineer Thomas Plamberger was guiding his girlfriend, Kirsten Gertner, up Austria's highest mountain, Grossglockner. At around 8:50 p.m., roughly 150 feet from the summit, the two became stranded in extreme winter conditions. Despite being the lead climber, no immediate emergency call was made at that point. Thomas and Kirsten remained near the summit for hours as conditions worsened. By around 2 a.m., Kirsten was completely exhausted, hypothermic, and disorientated. That's when Thomas decided to leave her behind and continue down the mountain alone to seek help. Authorities say Thomas had made an emergency call earlier, around 1:35 a.m., about 30 minutes before leaving her. However, he allegedly did not cover Kirsten with emergency blankets and reportedly put his phone on silent shortly after. Thomas continued his descent and made another emergency call at around 3:30 a.m. By then, it was likely too late. Kirsten froze to death near the summit while she was alone. Thomas is now facing negligent homicide charges. His lawyer maintains his innocence, calling it a tragic accident in an impossible situation. But many people believe that someone with that level of experience wouldn't have handled a situation like this so poorly, saying it seems suspicious, that he knew exactly what he was doing. What do you think? Steve Stefanides, a 46-year-old insurance underwriter, became separated from his co-workers during a charity hike on Mount Shavano in central Colorado. He had joined the trek to raise money for World Central Kitchen and reached the 14,230-foot summit, but lost the trail on the way down. A sudden storm brought freezing rain and strong winds, causing him to slip multiple times. His phone eventually lost signal, leaving him stranded alone in the harsh conditions. Worried when he didn't return, his co-workers reported him missing at 9 p.m. Volunteer rescue teams located him the next day and safely carried him down. TikTok user DBlankers uploaded a video from their trail camera that shocked thousands online. It captured something crawling into view. It wasn't an animal, it looked human-like. Its body was too skinny and too unnatural to be a normal person. And if it were a person, why would it be crawling deep in the forest in the middle of the night? A cryptid, a deranged person, or a hoax, nobody knows. In November 1985, deep inside Bear Brook State Park in Allenstown, New Hampshire, a hunter came across something that immediately felt out of place. Hidden among the trees was a rusted 55-gallon metal barrel. Curious, he looked inside and made a horrifying discovery. Inside were the remains of two people, an adult woman and a young girl. Investigators estimated the woman was in her early 30s, and the child was between 5 and 11 years old. There were no missing person reports that matched them. No names, no leads. The case went cold. Then, 15 years later, in 2000, the past resurfaced. While searching the same area of the park, investigators found a second barrel, buried only a short distance from the first. Inside were the remains of two more young girls, both under the age of 10. The discovery confirmed investigators' worst fear. All 4 victims were connected, and whoever was responsible had deliberately hidden them in the same remote location. For decades, the victims remained unidentified. The man responsible had lived under multiple aliases, drifting across the country, leaving almost no consistent trail. He blended into society, working, forming relationships, then disappearing again. The case seemed unsolvable. What finally changed everything wasn't a confession or a routine investigation, it was persistence. A local librarian determined to keep the victims' stories alive, and an independent genetic genealogist working outside traditional law enforcement began piecing together fragments of DNA, public records, and family trees. Through genetic genealogy, investigators finally identified the killer as Terry Petter Rasmussen, a man already deceased who had died in prison in 2010 while serving time for an unrelated crime. One by one, the victims were given their names back, decades after they were taken. The Bear Brook murders remain one of the most haunting cases in American history. A person was hiking in a national park when they saw something strange on a tree branch and decided to record it. It shows a tiny creature slowly crawling along the branch. At first glance, it almost looks like a grasshopper, but its body looks like thin bones tangled together, moving slowly, struggling forward. Can anyone help? What is this insect?
For the past couple of weeks, hikers along the Appalachian Trail here in Virginia warned each other about another hiker who had threatened them. This latest encounter with that man turned deadly.
On May 10, 2019, 4 hikers were camping along the Appalachian Trail in Virginia's Jefferson and George Washington National Forest. One of the hikers was 43-year-old Ronald Stronghold Sanchez Jr., a U.S. Army veteran. Earlier that evening, the group met 30-year-old James L. Jordan, who was behaving erratically and had approached them on the trail while singing and playing a guitar. Jordan later threatened the campers and said he would burn their tents. After midnight, Jordan returned to their campsite and confronted them with a large knife. 2 hikers escaped and called emergency services, but Jordan caught up with Sanchez and fatally attacked him. He also attacked a woman from the group, but she survived by playing dead and eventually made it to safety. Jordan was arrested hours later near the scene. In 2021, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a psychiatric facility for treatment. The event deeply affected the hiking community and the families involved. One morning, a couple was out walking their dogs through a local forest, an area long associated with strange stories. At one point, the woman's partner took a photo of her standing on the trail with her dogs. Nothing seemed unusual at the time, but later, when they looked at the image, they noticed something unsettling. A person was walking behind them, someone they hadn't seen at all before the photo was taken. What made it even stranger was the direction the figure appeared to be coming from, a route that would have taken hours to walk. As the person drew closer, they realized her face wasn't visible at all. Instead, it looked as though she was wearing a black hood. Both of them noticed the way she walked, slow, unsteady, and deliberate, steadily approaching from behind. Feeling uneasy, they decided to leave the forest. As they turned back, the figure was gone. To the left of the path was a large rocky drop, clearly visible and impossible to cross unnoticed. The trail ahead and behind them was completely open. No turns, no cover, nowhere someone could vanish within seconds. To this day, they don't know who or what they encountered that morning, or where the figure disappeared to. These men were hiking through the Appalachian Mountains when they came across something deeply unsettling. A narrow hole in the ground, barely visible among the leaves, but wide enough for a human leg to slip into. Curious and uneasy, they decided to test how deep it went. They lowered a long stick inside and watched as it kept descending, until it completely disappeared from view. It's a chilling reminder that while walking through dense forests, dangers like this can remain completely hidden, and one wrong step could lead somewhere no one would ever find you. Denise Pica-Thyme traveled to northern Spain in the spring of 2015 to hike the Camino de Santiago, one of the world's oldest and most well-known pilgrimage routes. At 41 years old, the Arizona native was walking the trail alone, as many pilgrims do, following marked paths that wind through forests, farmland, and small villages. Then, in April, disaster struck. Denise set out on a section of the route but never arrived at her next destination. When fellow hikers and hostel operators realized she hadn't checked in, concern quickly grew. Spanish authorities launched a search along the trail, focusing on the areas where she was last seen. For months, there were no answers. 5 months later, police arrested a 39-year-old local man who lived near the Camino. At first, he denied any involvement. But after investigators presented new forensic evidence, he changed his statement and admitted responsibility. Denise's body was later found hidden beneath branches near the suspect's property, in an area close to the trail. The suspect was denied bail and later convicted on homicide charges, bringing a grim end to a case that deeply shook the hiking and pilgrimage community. A woman went solo camping in southwest Alaska. The site was quiet and empty, and for days, nothing felt wrong. But one rainy night, she woke up past midnight, and a bad feeling settled in as a loud banging came from outside. A brown bear struck the tent. She froze in fear, gripping her bear spray. After a long, tense wait, the sounds finally stopped, and she walked calmly to her car, staying there until morning. At daylight, tracks showed the bear had walked straight from the car to her tent. She realized once again just how close she had come to real danger. A group of hikers visited the Denver mine in Chipinque, Monterrey, Mexico, an abandoned site tucked deep into the mountains. During their exploration, they took several photos inside the mine, not expecting anything unusual. But while reviewing the images, something stood out. In the background of one photo, a dark, shadowy figure can be seen. The shape appears human, closely resembling a mine worker standing within the tunnel. According to local stories, the Denver mine is believed to be haunted by workers who lost their lives inside the tunnels years ago, victims of accidents during its operation. This has led some to wonder, was this figure simply a trick of light and shadow inside the abandoned mine, or could it be something connected to the mine's tragic past? Whatever the explanation, the Denver mine remains known among locals for strange and unexplained reports. A woman was hiking through the mountains of Peru when something unusual caught her attention in the distance. High up on a mountain peak, she noticed movement and quickly began recording on her phone. As she zoomed in, two dark silhouettes became visible at the top of the ridge. At first glance, the figures appeared human, but then one of them stood up, and that's when the scale became unsettling. The figure appeared far taller than an average person. Whatever she captured on that mountain that day has never fully been explained. On June 6th, Maria went to Cuckoo's Nook with her friends because people said the place felt strange. While they were there, nothing unusual happened. But days later, when Maria checked the photos on her phone, one image made her stop. On the right side, a blurred shape appeared. It didn't look like motion blur or light, and the more she looked, the more it started to resemble a woman. Some commenters even said it looked like a bride. Is it just a blur or something paranormal? On the cold night of February 24th, 1978, 5 young men from Yuba County, California, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, Ted Weir, Jack Madruga, and Gary Mathias, headed to California State University, Chico, to watch a basketball game. They were excited. The next day, they were scheduled to play in a Special Olympics basketball tournament of their own. They laid out their uniforms before leaving the house, but they never returned home. Despite each man having mild developmental or psychological challenges, they functioned independently and were well loved in their community. Their disappearance immediately alarmed their families. A police search began. Within days, the men's 1972 Mercury Montego was located, but the discovery only deepened the mystery. The car was found an hour away in the wrong direction, high in the Plumas National Forest, up a remote mountain road in the northern Sierra Nevada. It was abandoned in a snowbank. The keys were gone. The engine worked, the tires weren't damaged, and investigators noted that 5 grown men could have easily pushed it free. Inside were a few empty food wrappers and drink containers, nothing more. Search teams combed the forest, but a heavy storm swept the area soon after, erasing tracks and signs that might have explained where the men had gone. Then came strange eyewitness reports. A man named Joseph Shuns claimed he saw the group on the very night they vanished. Shuns had suffered a mild heart attack while trying to free his own vehicle from the snow. He said he saw a group of men with flashlights walking near him. When he called out for help, the lights simply turned away and disappeared into the darkness. Another witness reported seeing 5 men in a red pickup on the Saturday and Sunday after the disappearance. 2 came into her store to buy food and use the phone, while the others stayed in the truck. Months passed without any more information. Then, in June 1978, the first body was found. A forest worker noticed a broken window at a U.S. Forest Service trailer, 20 miles from where the car had been abandoned. Inside lay the body of Ted Weir. He had wrapped himself in blankets. His feet were severely frostbitten. But disturbingly, he had starved to death despite a locker full of food nearby. The trailer's fireplace, heating system, and ample supplies of warm clothing were untouched. It is believed Ted may have survived up to 13 weeks after the men disappeared. Not far from the hillside between the trailer and the abandoned car, the remains of Sterling, Hewitt, and Madruga were found. All had succumbed to the cold, their bodies scattered over the terrain. Only one man was never found, Gary Mathias, whose shoes were discovered deep in the woods, but whose body has never been recovered. To this day, the case remains one of the most baffling unsolved mysteries in California history. Why did the group drive so far off course? Why did they leave a working car in freezing conditions? Why did they split up? And why did Ted not use food, heat, or clothing available to him? And why, according to their families, would the men ignore Joseph Shun's pleas for help? Something entirely out of character for them. No one knows what happened in those mountains. A group of hikers was moving through a quiet patch of desert in the Sonoran National Monument in Arizona when they noticed something unusual. A large rock had a metal lock embedded in its side, almost as if it was guarding an entrance to something hidden below the surface. They filmed it and shared the clip online, and viewers immediately began speculating about what they had found. What could be behind this? While exploring the Bacalar ruins, a visitor took a photo without noticing anything unusual at the time. It wasn't until he was reviewing the image that something unsettling appeared. Between the bushes and trees, a translucent humanoid figure can be seen standing among the ruins. No one remembered seeing anything there in real life. The ruins themselves were uncovered during the construction of the Maya train, an area already rich with history and long-forgotten pasts. Unsettled by what he saw, the man shared the image online, looking for answers. Some users suggested the photo looked filtered or digitally altered, pointing to its low quality. However, the man insisted the image was completely original, exactly as it was captured that day. No edits, no filters. To this day, there is no clear explanation for what appears in the photo. A hiker was exploring a dense forest in Canada all by himself. He was recording the scenery ahead, just trees and brush, nothing unusual at first. Then, in the distance, something moved. It wasn't walking on all fours like a bear would. The hiker stayed hidden behind nearby bushes and kept filming quietly, then left when the figure disappeared out of sight. Later, many viewers said it looked exactly like Bigfoot. If it had turned its head or caught his scent, would it have kept walking? Or would the hiker have been in trouble? In 2007, a student studying abroad in Cameroon took this photo near the entrance of a sacred cave using a disposable camera. During a free day, a professor led the group to a cave in a nearby mountain range, a site locals believe is home to spirits. Local children guided them to the entrance, but tourists were not permitted to go more than a few feet inside. Later, after returning home, the student had the film developed, and that's when they noticed something unsettling. A faint human-like figure appeared between the two children in the photo. Strangely, both children seemed to be facing the exact same spot, as if they were looking at it. The photographer wrote, "I'm a skeptic when it comes to ghost photos. They're easy to fake. But this one is different because it's mine. I took it. And this is exactly how it came back from the lab." Whether it was a trick of the light, a camera artifact, or something tied to the cave's legends, the figure has remained unexplained.
A trail camera set up in Hamlin County, Tennessee, captured unusual footage from a backyard garden. An elderly woman installed the camera after tomatoes and other vegetables kept disappearing overnight. When she reviewed the footage, she saw something she couldn't explain. A thin, human-like figure can be seen moving through the garden in the darkness. The figure's shape and movement don't resemble any known animal. Some residents claimed sightings like this weren't uncommon in the area. Hamlin County lies within the Appalachian Valley. a region long associated with reports of strange and unexplained creatures.
Recently, the National Park Service issued an odd warning. Visitors were told not to lick or handle the Sonoran desert toad. The toad releases a toxin that can cause severe illness and even kill a full-grown dog. The toxin contains 5-MeO-DMT, a psychedelic substance that is illegal in the United States. Some people seek it out for its effects, but experts warn that contact with the toxin is dangerous. The Sonoran desert toad lives in Arizona, Mexico, and nearby states. It can grow up to 8 inches long and live 10 to 20 years. Conservationists say the increased demand for the toxin may harm the species. Do people actually lick toads?
During a hike along a remote Appalachian trail, this person came across a disturbing sight. Attached to a tree at eye level, directly facing the path, was a structure made from animal bones. At first glance, it felt threatening, almost like a warning left behind. But discoveries like this don't always point to something dangerous. In some cases, similar displays are linked to morbid or macabre art, a form of expression that uses imagery associated with death, decay, and nature to provoke reflection or emotion. Artists, hikers, or locals have been known to create bone assemblages using found animal remains, arranging them as personal symbols, folk art, or ritual-like displays without any malicious intent. Whether this was a piece of morbid art or a personal ritual remains unclear. But encountering something like this, alone on a remote trail, is enough to make anyone uneasy, especially when you don't know why it was placed there or who might return to it.
This couple was hiking through a remote mountain area in southern Utah when the woman took a photo of her husband as he photographed the landscape. At first, the image looked ordinary, but later, while reviewing their photos, they noticed something strange. A glowing, unusual shape appeared in the frame. The light hadn't been visible at the location and was only discovered afterward, which left them confused. They shared the image online, asking if anyone had seen something similar and even wondering whether it could have been something far more mysterious. After a closer review, most Reddit users offered a simple explanation: a lens flare. They explained the effect was likely caused by strong sunlight reflecting inside the phone's camera lens, creating the glowing shape seen in the photo.
In 2008, fishermen Scott Johnston and Sean Farmer were camping near Wapiti Shelter, a remote area along the Appalachian Trail. While there, they encountered a man who introduced himself as Ricky Williams, later identified as Randall Smith. The three men shared dinner together, and Smith stayed with them for several hours, even though he claimed his own campsite was more than an hour away. Around 8:30 p.m., Smith said he was leaving. Not long after, the situation suddenly turned dangerous. Johnston and Farmer were seriously injured during the incident, but managed to escape together and survived. Smith fled the area. Later investigation confirmed that Randall Smith was also responsible for the 1981 deaths of Robert Mountford Jr. and Susan Ramsey, which occurred in the same general region. Despite the attack in 2008, no clear motive was ever established. Smith was later taken into custody and eventually died while incarcerated, bringing no further answers as to why the attack happened.
On the afternoon of Saturday, January 24th, 2026, residents of Curareju, Chile, noticed something unusual in the sky. A disc-shaped object was seen flying overhead, drawing immediate attention from people in the area. Several witnesses were at the local community stadium when the sighting occurred. One of them, Joaquin Brevis Morales, said the object appeared at a distance but was clearly visible. According to witnesses, it had a metallic disc-like shape and moved in a way unlike any conventional aircraft. It made a sudden, rapid maneuver, then abruptly disappeared from view. The main footage was recorded by Fermín Pangulif and has since been circulating online. The footage has sparked debate about what the object could have been. This couple was out enjoying a day in nature, filming casually as they explored the area together. At one point, the man began recording his girlfriend as she stopped and sat down, lifting a small digital camera to take a photo of him in return. Nothing seemed unusual at first, but as he zoomed in, something unexpected happened. A small figure suddenly ran behind her. The man immediately noticed it and instinctively tracked the movement with his camera as it vanished behind a nearby tree. Seconds later, the figure appeared again, this time seemingly hiding behind tall reeds. The clip ends shortly after, without any explanation of what the figure was. Some viewers insist the footage was edited or staged. Others believe it shows a real, unexplained creature briefly caught on camera. With no follow-up footage and no clear details, the question remains: what ran behind her that day? In March of 2022, Reddit user QueasySun1796 went to Waverly Hills Sanatorium with her sister, brother-in-law, and boyfriend for her birthday. She took many photos while exploring the abandoned building, but later when she looked through them, one picture stood out. In the frame, a shadow appeared. She claims that no person was there when the photo was taken, yet somehow, something was captured. She posted it to Reddit, wondering if you see it too. In late July 2025, Jose Velasquez Turquillos, a 35-year-old man from Camarillo, California, vanished under circumstances that immediately raised concern. He was last seen on July 27th. For several days, no one heard from him. Something those close to him said was highly unusual. By July 30th, he was officially reported missing, and authorities began looking into what had happened. Early in the investigation, another troubling detail emerged. Jose's work van was found abandoned in Thousand Oaks, miles away from where he was last seen. There were no clear signs explaining why it had been left there, and no indication of where Jose had gone afterward. Weeks passed, summer turned to fall. Despite searches and growing concern, there were no confirmed sightings and no answers. Then, on October 3rd, more than 2 months after his disappearance, hikers in the Santa Monica Mountains made a grim discovery. In a remote area near a hiking trail in Los Angeles County, they came across human remains and immediately contacted authorities. The body was identified as Jose Velasquez Turquillos. The location was isolated, far from neighborhoods and not easily visible from the trail, suggesting he had not simply wandered there by accident. Los Angeles County coroner later ruled Jose's death a homicide, determining that he had suffered multiple gunshot wounds. How he ended up in the mountains, who brought him there, and why he was killed remain unanswered questions. As of now, the investigation is ongoing, and authorities have not released details about suspects or motives. A man shared a chilling video he captured late at night near his home, showing what he believed was a stranded woman walking slowly toward the woods behind his property. At first, she seemed like someone lost or in need of help. Instead of calling out from a distance, he decided to follow her, keeping her in frame as he moved through the brush. Then, in a brief moment, she turned, and according to the man, her face wasn't there at all. No eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, blank surface. What happened next is unknown. If the footage is real, why would anyone chase a stranger alone at night, especially into a dense forest? This person was staying in a rural area of the French Alps when late at night, something unusual in the sky caught their attention. A bright blue light streaked from the clouds toward the ground. The distance and the thick cloud cover made it difficult to identify what was producing the light. Some viewers suggested it could have been an atmospheric phenomenon, such as lightning reflecting through ice crystals or other natural causes. Others thought it resembled descriptions often associated with UFO sightings. So what do you think it was? This hiker was exploring a remote forest trail somewhere in the United States. He had gone out alone, hoping to enjoy a quiet walk and capture some peaceful nature footage. For a while, everything seemed calm, but suddenly he heard rustling in the distance. Curious, he turned his camera toward the sound, and that's when he captured this. Moving between the trees, only a short distance away, a dark figure could be seen walking upright. It appeared large and moved quickly through the forest. The hiker tried to follow it, but within seconds, the figure slipped deeper into the woods and vanished. In December 2021, a New Zealand father named Tom Phillips disappeared into the wilderness with his 3 children from the small rural town of Maricopa. Authorities believe he took them after losing legal custody, and when he failed to appear in court in 2022, a nationwide search began. The area surrounding Maricopa is incredibly rugged, dense bush, steep hills, caves, and a harsh coastline. Phillips was known locally as an experienced bushman and hunter, which many people believe helped him survive in the wilderness for years while avoiding the police. Over time, there were occasional sightings. In 2023, people reported seeing Phillips and the children near the remote areas of the Waikato region. In one widely shared video filmed by teenagers in October 2024, the group could be seen walking through thick bushes, all wearing camouflage clothing and carrying large backpacks. When the teenagers asked them if anyone knew they were there, the child reportedly replied, "Only you." Authorities also suspected Phillips may have been involved in several break-ins and robberies during those years, possibly searching for supplies. The case gripped the entire country. Then, in the early hours of September 8, 2025, everything suddenly came to an end. Police responded to a reported robbery at a commercial property in the small town of Pio Pio. Officers soon spotted Tom Phillips riding a quad bike with one of his children. A pursuit began. Police deployed road spikes, forcing the quad bike off the road. When officers approached, gunfire erupted. One officer was struck in the head and seriously injured. A second police unit responded, and the confrontation ended with Tom Phillips being fatally wounded at the scene. The child who had been with him was found alive. That child later provided crucial information that helped police locate the other 2 children at a remote campsite deep in the bush later that same day. All 3 children were found alive and physically unharmed, ending the nearly 4-year search. The children's mother later said she was deeply relieved that the ordeal had finally come to an end, though she also described the outcome as heartbreaking. Even now, many people in New Zealand continue to ask difficult questions. How did a father manage to hide with 3 children in the wilderness for nearly 4 years? Did anyone secretly help them survive out there? And what really happened during those long years in the bush?
While hiking through the forest, this person noticed something unusual ahead. A red glowing light appeared rising above a dense cluster of trees. The object seemed to lift slowly from within the forest canopy, its light steady and clearly visible for several seconds. Some viewers suggested it could have been a distress flare, but flares typically rise much higher and burn far brighter before fading. Others believe it may have been a drone or another man-made light source, though no sound was reported and no clear shape could be seen. No explanation was ever confirmed.
A trail crew was working miles from the nearest road, deep in the forest, cutting a new path through thick trees and underbrush. It was mid-morning when one of the workers stepped away to use the bathroom. That's when he heard it, whistling. Soft at first, drifting through the trees. He called out, thinking it might be another hiker. The whistling stopped. Silence. Then it started again. This time farther downhill. That's when he saw them. 2 strange men, dressed in black suits, wearing tall top hats, each carrying a cane. They were walking slowly through the forest. No backpacks, no gear, no visible trail. Just moving calmly between the trees, in the middle of nowhere. Startled, he rushed back to the crew and told them what he had seen. Together they returned to the spot. And just before the men disappeared into the woods, the crew caught a glimpse of them too. One of the workers shouted, but the men didn't react. They didn't turn around. They just kept walking until they vanished into the trees, miles from civilization, dressed like they stepped out of another century. Who were these mysterious men. TikTok user Big Island Thieves Media was out on a casual hike when something strange started happening, prompting him to start recording. As he walked, small rocks suddenly began falling from the sky. At first it seemed mysterious, but there was a real explanation behind the event. The video was dated January 24th, 2026, the same day the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory reported that episode 41 of the ongoing Kilauea summit eruption had begun that morning. The eruption was ejecting volcanic debris high into the air. Some of that material, small rocks and fragments, eventually fell back down in surrounding areas. So what looked like rocks randomly falling from the sky was actually volcanic fallout. Why the man chose to stay outside while debris was raining down is unclear, because being outdoors during falling volcanic material is definitely not safe. A man was hiking in the forest when something unusual appeared among the trees, and he quickly recorded this footage. A dark, bulky humanoid figure could be seen moving slowly between the trees. The man claimed it was a legitimate sighting of Bigfoot, and said he had seen the creature before in the same area. Some viewers believe it could simply be a person wearing a realistic costume. Others believe the man's story. So who do you believe? A person was hiking during a heavy rainstorm, thunder rolling in the distance, lightning tearing across the sky. And then they captured this. Within the storm clouds, a shape appeared, seemingly drawing the lightning toward it. It looked like something was suspended in the sky. Too defined to be random cloud cover, too unclear to fully identify. What do you think was concealed in those clouds that day? A group of people was watching an eclipse when something utterly strange appeared in the sky. At first, it looked like a bright, flaming orb. But then they noticed something even more unusual. On top of the glowing orb, something appeared to be standing or sitting. Some viewers suggested the orb itself could be explained by a natural phenomenon. Whatever appeared on top of it makes the scene much harder to explain. So was it simply a rare optical illusion, or something far stranger? Trail cameras are commonly used by hunters to monitor animal movement, but this one was installed for a very different reason. People near this wooded area had reported repeated screaming sounds, believed to be human, not animal. The camera later captured these two photos. It had been placed far from any populated area. The nearest town was more than 10 miles away. The closest house sat roughly 5 miles from the location. The land was private and fenced, with no direct access unless permission was granted. No regular foot traffic was expected in that area. Who or what did it capture, and why were they out there at such a late hour? A group of friends were hiking a mountain in Indonesia. After reaching the summit, one of them recorded a short video to capture the moment. The group can be seen standing at the top, surrounded by thick mist rolling over the mountain. At first, everything seems completely normal. But if you look closely at the beginning of the clip, one person appears to be headless. For a brief second, it genuinely looks like a body standing there without a head. However, after reviewing the footage multiple times, a more logical explanation became clear. The person was most likely simply bowing forward, with their head lowered and blending into their dark t-shirt combined with the camera angle and heavy mist. But for a moment there, it definitely looked unsettling. A woman returned home around 4 o'clock in the morning and immediately noticed something unusual in the snow outside her house and her neighbors. Fresh footprints circled the entire property. They formed a strange pattern, as if something had slowly walked around the homes in the dark. Confused and unsettled, she began recording. The prints appeared large. They didn't resemble dog tracks, and they didn't look like anything she recognized. What disturbed her most wasn't just the size. It was the lack of a clear trail. there were no visible footprints leading up to the area. It was as if something had simply appeared there, walked in circles around the property, and then vanished. Some suggested the wind may have covered part of the tracks, but even if that explains the missing trail, who or what made those prints in the first place? Two cavers were navigating a narrow limestone passage known as the Z-Bend, a notoriously tight Z-shaped squeeze inside Pettyjohn's Cave on Pigeon Mountain, Georgia. This popular, wild cave is known for being extremely muddy and cold, around 56 degrees Fahrenheit. The first caver entered feet first, lying on his belly, and warned the second about the tight squeeze ahead. The second caver followed, this time on his back. As he reached the bend, the limestone seemed to close in around him. His chest was pressed tight against the walls, each breath growing more difficult. Panic set in quickly when he realized he could neither move forward nor back. The others heard his desperate calls for help. A rescue began immediately. One teammate pushed from behind, while another tried to pull him from the front. The stone walls were unforgiving, resisting every effort to free him. Unfortunately, there were no further updates on what happened next, so I'm hoping they got out. Two friends were visiting Gettysburg when one of them decided to take this photo while exploring the area. The picture shows a bridge at night, with their friend standing on the other side, holding a flashlight. At first, nothing seemed unusual, but later, when they looked at the image again, something unsettling caught their attention. In the middle of the bridge, a faint, blurry figure appears to be walking, barely visible in the darkness. What makes it even stranger is that according to them, no one else was on the bridge when the photo was taken.
In 2001, Louise Chaput, a 52-year-old woman from Quebec, traveled to Pinkham's Grant, New Hampshire, for a weekend getaway. She checked into a lodge at the Appalachian Mountain Club Visitor Center, planning a quiet stay surrounded by the mountains. During her visit, Louise set out alone on a short hike along the Lost Pond Trail, a trailhead located just across the road from the lodge, but she never returned. By the following Monday, after hearing nothing from her, Louise's family contacted local authorities and reported her missing. A search was launched throughout the surrounding area. Tragically, on Thanksgiving Day, Louise was found along the trail. Investigators determined she had suffered serious injuries caused by an assault. To this day, no suspect has been identified, and the case remains unsolved.
In April 2016, a veteran hiker named Ian Crombie was walking a section of the Continental Divide Trail in New Mexico when he made a discovery he would never forget. As he entered La Guanita's campground, Ian noticed something strange outside the restroom. A pair of homemade skis leaned against the wall. Then he saw a message carved into the wooden door. It read, "Dead CDT hiker inside. Call cops. Otter." Beneath it, a handwritten note warned that a human body was locked inside the restroom and urged anyone who found it to contact authorities immediately. Inside, investigators later confirmed the remains belonged to Stephen Olshansky, known in the hiking community as Otter. He had gone missing months earlier in November 2015 while attempting a solo hike on the Continental Divide Trail during one of the most dangerous times of year. Otter was not inexperienced. He had been hiking since childhood and was well known among long-distance hikers. But despite his experience, he chose to continue south from Cumbres Pass in mid-November, carrying supplies for what should have been a 2-week stretch. Soon after entering the Carson National Forest, conditions worsened dramatically. Snow became waist-deep in places, temperature dropped, and Otter began documenting severe weakness and exhaustion in his journal. In recorded videos, he openly admitted he was in serious trouble, snowbound, running out of food, and unable to move forward or back. Attempts to turn around failed when he could barely cover a mile. With no rescue arriving, Otter tried everything he could to survive. He built makeshift skis, wrote a large help sign in the snow, and even set a fire in hopes of being spotted from the air. Eventually, he managed to reach the campground restroom, where he left warnings on the door before sheltering inside. Search efforts had begun months earlier, but heavy snow and lack of precise location data made finding him impossible. By the time his body was discovered in April, nearly 6 months had passed. In his final journal entries, Otter took full responsibility for his situation, writing that it was the result of choices he made and risks he knowingly took. Now, if you're enjoying my videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps me creating new stories every week, and it means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching. In late October, a trail camera captured an unusual figure moving through a remote wooded area. The footage was recorded at 4:37 a.m., a time when no one would normally be there. The figure looks human, but its neck and arms appear unnaturally long and thin. It moves with a hunched posture, swinging its arms widely as it walks quickly. The camera's owner noted that the area is far from any road or trail. But without more details about the exact location, the footage remains a bit mysterious. After a day of hiking in Phoenix, someone captured this unusual video.
Just hovering in the distance back there. What the fuck is that?
The object appears pitch black, which makes it look even stranger. It hovers in the air and moves very slowly, seemingly all on its own. It appears completely isolated, with nothing nearby that could explain it. The video doesn't provide enough detail to identify what it is, leaving viewers puzzled. Do you have any idea what it could be? A young man was walking through the snowy woods with his mother. At first, everything felt peaceful, until they noticed strange footprints in the snow. Curious, they followed the tracks and soon spotted the creatures that had left them. From a distance, 2 dark figures moved through the forest. Now, is it just me, or does it look like a person in winter gear walking with their dog? Let me know what you see. A visitor to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania shared a photo taken from the top of Devil's Den. At first glance, it looks like a completely normal scene, nothing unusual. When the image is zoomed in toward the tree line, something strange appears. Partially hidden among the trees, a blurry figure can be seen. It almost looks like something standing there, watching. The person who took the photo insists no one was in that area at the time. And considering Devil's Den is one of the most historically significant and reportedly haunted locations at Gettysburg, some believe it could be a lingering spirit tied to the battlefield's past. Others say it's simply a trick of shadows, light distortion, or pareidolia. But with a place that holds so much history, you can't help but wonder. In June 2025, TikTok user Jenny Farici5 started hearing non-stop dog barking, along with other strange noises outside her house late at night. Curious and a little uneasy, she began recording. But what she captured was far more disturbing. In the distance, a faint white figure appeared, and alongside it, a chilling cry echoed through the night. Some viewers quickly connected the sighting to La Llorona, the crying woman from Hispanic folklore, said to wander near rivers and lonely roads, weeping in the darkness. The legend tells of a spirit searching endlessly for her lost children. But could this really be authentic evidence of La Llorona?
A Reddit user recently shared an experience after witnessing the brown mountain lights from Wise Man's View in North Carolina. Below the viewpoint was a steep cliff, and beyond it, miles of dense wilderness stretched into the darkness. According to the user, more than 15 bright lights appeared across the mountainside. The user mentioned that the lights appeared in areas where no roads are known to exist. The brown mountain lights have been reported for more than a century, with the earliest published accounts dating back to around 1910. Over the years, countless witnesses have described similar glowing or moving lights in the same region. Some believe the lights could be caused by natural phenomena, such as geological or mineral-related activity. But despite decades of reports, no single explanation has been universally accepted. So what do you think caused the lights that night?
This clip is believed to date back to the early 2000s and was reportedly discovered by a park ranger. No one knows who the person filming was, and there's no record of what happened to them afterward. In the footage, the camera suddenly begins shaking as the person starts running through the trees. Their breathing becomes heavy, and it's clear they are trying to escape something behind them. Then, something appears, and suddenly, the video cuts off. And no explanation followed whatsoever. Did a park ranger really find this footage? If so, what happened there? For more scary camping encounters, watch this next video.